Ha ha! DM screens. Hello, friends. Welcome to another exciting topic for discussion. Today, I will be addressing the question that I've received many times on many comments. Why don't I use a DM screen? Well, the reason why, put simply, is that I don't need it and I don't want it. So let's talk about why DM screens are used. We'll talk about who should use them, and then I'll talk about my own personal experiences. So first of all, why do people use DM screens? Well, initially, I think if you're a starting DM or even an experienced DM, the idea of a DM screen is twofold. Number one, it is concealment. Okay, so if I'm the DM and I have screens up everywhere, no matter what they're for, what game they're for, whatever, you can't see what's behind here. So the DM can hide their notes, they can hide props that they're going to be using, they can hide their dice rolls, they can hide any number of things, campaign notes, NPC information, what monsters they're looking at in the monster manual. So I think part of why people use the DM screen is concealment. And that's probably why, whether you're a beginner or a more experienced DM, you might use a DM screen, is to conceal what's going on behind the scenes. And it basically isn't that different from the Wizard of Oz, right? The DM is the person behind the curtain. You're kind of controlling the whole world and the whole storyline. And you're creating these encounters and creating these adventures and challenges for your players. So it kind of makes sense that you should have some circle of privacy and secrecy so that the players don't know everything that's going on. Now, why else do we use screens? Because a lot of times they are resources. They have valuable tables or charts or just basic notes or information. So I'm going to take a trip through history here. So Dave, we'll look at this first one. This was the Gamma World DM screen for the box set that TSR released of Gamma World. I think that was the second edition. And like many DM screens, it was just a trifold piece of cardboard with a variety of different useful notes on it that were summarized. So you had armor table, shield table, combat modifiers, detailed modifiers. This is all defenses. Then we have weapons, right? And we have all the weapon types and damage and all that stuff with abbreviations. Then we have random events, including terrain and, encounters, creatures, that kind of stuff, physical terrain hazards. So basically, the DM side of this screen was all for the DM to have quick references as they were running this Gamma World campaign. On the flip side, what the players could see, and which also kind of made sense, were reaction charts, conditions, battle morale modifiers, injury results, the action table, the ACT, which was how a lot of the game systems from TSR at this time, including Gamma World, Marvel Superheroes, and a few others, I believe, had adopted this color chart percentile system to determine success with checks and so forth. And then, biological special injuries, types of damage, special effects. So this tattered, ancient piece of cardboard is something that we used frequently. Whoever was running Gamma World at the time would have this set up, and then they'd have all the books behind it, and the other players around the table could see the main things. And right off the bat, if they're making a combat roll or a power or skill check, whatever, they could see on this color chart the degree to which they had success. So again, why do we use screens? Privacy or concealment, but also for valuable, information. Here's another one. This is from the early 90s. This is Vampire the Masquerade. This is the second edition Storyteller's screen. So nothing really useful on the front cover here, other than second edition Storyteller's screen. And, the traditions, which are the kind of the laws for vampires, and then character creation process. So the front of the screen, which faces outwards to the players, if you look to the wide shot, that's all you're seeing. And that's not super valuable. It's not super helpful. The inside is more for the storyteller, the game master, if you will. And that kind of has some quick reference things here. So generation charts, which determine blood pool, blood size, trait max ratings. Conditions for aura colors, so the power aspects that would reveal aura. You could be more descriptive by using the aura colors, and then the player would have to determine based on the colors what the moods were and so forth. How long torpor lasts, experience point costs, awarding experience points, so that kind of panel. Then there's more of a combat center here, which is like firearms, firefight complications, cover modifiers, health, armor chart, brawling table, and then you have kind of other ratings here. So White Wolf came out with this, and again, what purpose does this screen for a storyteller hold? More privacy and concealment and quick reference charts for kind of frequently used things in the game. The front, more decorative than anything else. Not really anything valuable here for players. So those are a couple old things that I have just sitting around on a shelf collecting dust. But if you really want to see old, let's examine this. This is the World of Greyhawk, 1980. I have to be careful because when I open this folder, it wants to rip. So inside of this, so you could have used this folder as a DM screen. You could have used it as a DM screen, but it contains a veritable plethora of things. Okay. So if I take all the things out of it, very carefully so it doesn't rip, the inside has a whole bunch of the World of Greyhawk information. So it's got, the kind of the key to the map. It has the different, countries, kingdoms, that kind of stuff, and the city list, that kind of thing. So I could have used this, opening this panel up, and had this as my quick reference to the map. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside because it's old. Then you'd have your different books here. This is Weather in the World of Greyhawk, which is a trifold piece of cardboard, so I can expand my DM screen here, and it gives me, the privacy that a DM screen awards, but it also has a quick reference table to standard weather, precipitation, high wind effects, baseline data chart. This is the kind of crunchy stuff that must have had some value in 1980, because you got to remember that the people who invented Dungeons and Dragons were wargamers, so knowing the weather and the exact amount of precipitation would have maybe been important. Not important now. So, to me, I could just make that up. If I'm running a game, I could be like, yes, well, roll a d6. Oh, I rolled a 7 d6. That's stupid, Bill. Come on. It would be a little more... I think I wouldn't need this many charts to just determine whether it's going to rain or snow. Or if it's a blizzard, maybe I throw that in there from a narrative perspective so that you understand why it's important to know that. But yeah, so this it's crazy that they even had that. This seems like filler to me. Then, of course, some character sheets and the maps of Greyhawk, which I'll open just to show you so that any of you old school grognards would feel jealous. So that's just one half of the beautiful map, the other half. So then, you'd put this up on your wall and your players would see the world as it unfolds. I keep that more for nostalgia than anything else. I don't run any games in Greyhawk. But I will say that, even, I guess the reason for showing this for this particular video, which is a discussion of DM screens, the idea is that, they designed this folder as a takeaway, an all-in-one, so that you got your maps, you got your information about, even such mundane things as weather, and you could use this folder as its own screen too. So, but again, the why people use DM screens can be summarized in two things. Number one, privacy concealment. Number two, quick reference guides, right? Cheat sheets. Now, why don't I use them? Why don't I use a screen? I have a different reason. Number one, I don't need cheat sheets anymore. I have most of the important rules memorized, and if I don't, then I make it up, or whatever. I wing it, or I make somebody else look it up. Number two, I don't need or want privacy and concealment. So here's where we're getting in the meat of the second part, which is one of the core reasons why GMs of all experience levels use screens. I don't want that. Long ago, somewhere in the 90s, I realized that having a screen up creates a barrier, a literal barrier, but also kind of a symbolic barrier between you and the players. And in fact, I will show you what era in the 90s that was. It was this era. It was in the 90s when I was playing Vampire. And Vampire is such a narrative game that I realized after a while that I don't need this. I don't need this barrier. I want to be able to have this narrative and interact with the players and jump between different NPCs and manifest all these different personalities, and I don't want this barrier. I felt like it became an interruption to the interactive storytelling. When you sit around a campfire with people and you're telling stories, it's not like there's one person who has like an umbrella and is hiding from everybody else. Like, that would be weird, right? So, I don't know. For a multitude of reasons, I just decided that I didn't want to use a screen anymore. So, when I set up for a game, if I'm running the game, I have my my stuff. Got some books on standby, but and I might even have a cheat sheet somewhere. If there's something that I'm running and I'm not 100% confident on it, or it's not all up here, maybe I'll have like a cheat sheet. But really, like, I feel like since I got rid of the screen, my gaming experience at the table is just much more open. It's more flexible. It's more free. There's no structure inhibiting how I run the game. The other thing is I have nothing to hide. I don't roll behind a screen. The players see my rolls, right? Now, there are some tricks that I have, kind of like a magician, for how to make rolls so that the players can't always figure out what's what. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So I think as a personal choice, I've found a way to be able to run games without using a screen and without without having mountains of books on the table. And if you've watched any of the shows, you'll notice I typically just have like a player's handbook. Like, I don't even, here's my DM's guide, here's my monster manual. They're in like mint condition. Like, they still smell new because I read them and then I put them on a shelf. Like, I don't keep these on the table. I try to keep the table clear. That's related to the whole issue of the screen, right? I just don't want to have this physical barrier of concealment or secrecy, or even just something that interrupts the space, the interactive space between me and my players. So that's the reason. That's the answer for why I don't do it. Now, I want to say something because I am anticipating that there's going to be some questions or comments about this. What if you're a new DM? What if you're a new GM? You don't have all the rules memorized. Okay. You could use a screen. I wouldn't fault you for that, and you don't have to buy one. You can make it, just find an old folder. This is just something that was at a conference. This is from 1984, Brunswick Corporation Fall Controllers Conference. I don't even know how I have this. But it's, just a folder, right? And you can have your paper. You could go to Google and type D&D 5e cheat sheet, and there will be hundreds of images. People have already made it, so you don't even have to make your own. Just go find. Like, I have 3 or 4 of them, different ones. There's one that's low res ink, black and white, and then there's some that are beautiful color, full color with borders and stuff. There's all these creative people out on the internet who have openly shared their stuff. So you could just print out the cheat sheets that you want and customize your own screen, Now, whether you choose to use it as a screen, or if you just want to have the cheat sheets in a folder on hand and out in the open, that's up to you. What I actually did a few years ago, I think, or maybe a year, I don't know, it was shortly after D&D 5e came out, and we were, making the jump into it, And we didn't know all the rules. We didn't remember how like advantage works and all that kind of stuff. So I printed out a bunch of cheat sheets, not just for the DM, but for all the players at the table. So we all had it, which was great. It was awesome. So at a glance, we had this one-page sheet where we could just, oh, hey, how do I do this proficiency thing? What do you add up to do a initiative? Just dumb stuff. But it made it a lot easier. Whether you use it as an open screen cheat sheet kind of thing, or whether you want to go with your own screen, that's up to you. I'm part of several crafting communities, and there are a lot of times crafters will make a DM screen and they'll post pictures and stuff. And I'm not knocking that. If that's your jam, if you want to build a castle as your DM screen, that's cool, or buy some kid's toy castle and modify it, whatever. I've seen some really cool things that I thought about doing. Like there are some wood castle kid toys at the crafting stores at like Michael's and stuff that fold and they have like a little latch. I'm like, oh, that'd make a perfect DM screen / carrying case, blah, blah, blah. And I'd paint it up and make it cool. And then I'm like, why? I don't use screens. So, but for you newbie DMs, GMs, whatever, go ahead and make your screen or make your quick flip chart, reference guide, cheat sheet thing, whatever makes it comfortable for you. But to answer the numerous questions I've had about why I don't use it because I don't want any barriers between me and the players at my table. I like to have a very open, flexible table, and so that's why. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you click on the little notifications bell icon so that you can catch up with more of the content here on the channel. And I hope these explanations and these explorations of the whole topic on DM screens, GM screens have been insightful. And if they haven't, leave a comment below. If they have, leave a comment below. Share your own experience. And we'll see you next time.
1,000 thank yous for watching that video. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out some of the other awesome gaming-related content on my channel, like crafting videos or DM and GM tips.